Welcome back to the studio. Today we're going to be blocking in the bougainvillea that is draping over these arches. I showed you in the frame before the video began, I showed you my colors mixed out on my palette. And all the paint that was lined up on the left is paint that is left over from previous painting sessions, so that if I need to go back and work around something, I've got that paint. I don't have to worry about pre-mixing it or mixing it again and matching. Today I'm working with mixtures of permanent rose plus magenta. This has more magenta in it. This is my shadow color of the bougainvillea. On the Mediterranean coast you see lots of those bright pink bougainvilleas. But in the shadows we want the little darker mixture. And we'll come back with the brighter values. And I just pick up, you can't really see it here, but I pick up several shades of color on my brush. I've pre-mixed all my colors, so I have several shades. So when I start blocking it up there, I kind of get neat little mixes, variations in the color. I don't want this to all be the same, because when you look at bougainvilleas or any flowers, they're not all just constantly the same color. So we let some of those long arms of the bougainvillea drape down over the arch. By bringing elements in front of each other, like I'm bringing that bougainvillea draping down over the building, it helps to give the impression of depth. Overlapping elements really help give that impression. And in painting, we're working on a two-dimensional surface, which is our canvas, and attempting to make it appear 3 dimensions. And so, like by having the columns in front of the rocks and the ocean, that gives that feeling of depth. By having the waves breaking up and over the horizon line, that again gives the feeling of depth into the painting. There's a lot of tricks you can use, techniques, tricks, methods, different terms for all the same thing, that you can use to give that impression of depth. And it really helps when you're painting realistically. Even though I paint impressionistically, it's, I guess, more of a impressionistic realism. And so I want things to appear that they go back. Now I'm coming back in with a few lighter values into this bougainvillea. These will really catch the light coming down here because the light is streaming through this archway. I'm going to use a little smaller brush here. These coming down will be lighter. But see that square brush, I can use that edge, that corner, and get a very, very fine brush stroke. The flowers of bougainvilleas are actually called bracts. The flower of the bougainvillea is not the pink part. In the center of that pink part is a little teeny bitty white flower, and that's actually the flower. These are just, they're not leaves, but they're called bracts. Why? I don't have a clue, but that's what it's called. I'm not a botanist or a horticulturist, so I really don't know those things. Now I have saved some of my wall color. I want to come up here. I want more of my wall showing throw up here. Don't want to cover up the top of my arch here. So I just come back with that wall color that I've saved. It doesn't matter if I pick up a little bit of that pink on my brush as I'm doing this, but I don't want to obscure the top of that arch. Now I'm using, as you saw in that first frame, I have my paint thinner in a water jug, a plastic water jug that I cut the top out of. But then I put my paint thinner in that, and that's very convenient to use for the paint thinner. And since I drink that water, then I'm recycling those plastic jugs. I'm very fortunate where I live. We have a well, those can't be recycled, but they're I guess hazardous material, I'm not exactly sure, but they can pick up paint thinner and containers and that kind of stuff, and they dispose of them for us. So I'm very fortunate in that. So when that gets all gooky in the bottom, I can just throw it away and start over with a new one. Now the light is bouncing off of our floor, which you can't see, it's out of the bottom of the picture. But it's bouncing and reflecting light up onto the bottom of this arch. So that's why that's brighter up in there. If you study buildings, you can really, you'll notice that on a bright sunny day. Now I'm going to start blocking in the foliage. This is a mixture of Viridian Green and Phthalo Blue. Now this is just pure Viridian Green plus just a tiny touch of white. And I work my greens around the pinks. That way my pink color remains nice and bright. If I painted the green first, then when I painted the pinks, see how my brush picks up some of that pink? The same thing would happen if I painted the green first and then tried to paint the pink over it. My brush would pick up that green and make my pink dirty. This way the green is darker than the pink and it's not going to bother if I pick up a little bit of that on my brush. Now we're going to let this one really come down over the top of that arch. This arch is bigger, so I can break some of it down. Or I can break across it. And still we get the feeling of that full arch in there. I'm going to let another little arm of the bougainvillea dip down here. Don't want it to come down as far. I don't want those to each one be equal. To have some variations in there. This is a little just phthalo blue plus liquid. That gives a coolness into the foliage. And I'll do that same thing over here. Block this in, and these come down over the trunks. You want to get the feeling of those trunks going back up underneath the bougainvilleas. You can see how that brush, I can make a big stroke with it flat, or make the leaf strokes with the corner of it. I'm going to again take a little bit more of my wall color, and I can just come back in and work around. That's too light, so I get some of my darker color. Come back and work around that. see little white spots in here I need to cover over. Again, this is my phthalo blue plus the liquid. And then I'm going to have a little light here on these leaves that are getting caught in the sunlight. Now, I still have more work to do on this, but that's how how's the basic block in of the Bougainvillea goes. I really appreciate you watching my YouTube video. Please subscribe to my channel and also visit my blog. The address is on the last frame of the video. In my blog I show the entire step-by-step process of this painting, as well as the others that I do. And you just have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you again for visiting my studio.